All right, let us call today's meeting to order. Welcome and thank you for attending the July 20th meeting of the Economic Development Authority of the City of Lynchburg. Let's start with a roll call. Sean Hewitt.
Here.
Patricia Mosby.
Here.
Georgianne Sneed. Absent. Kimberly Sorensen.
Here.
John Stone. Here. Richard Tugman. Sackett Wood.
Here.
Thank you. We'll begin with approval of minutes for the June 15 meeting. June 15, 2023 meeting.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, we've got a motion to approve the meeting minutes as presented. Any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Minutes are approved. Next up, we have a slate of officers for fiscal year 24. Thank you to our nominating committee, which I believe was Kim and Georgianne. Thank you guys for your work. Our slate of officers is Assistant Secretary Treasurer Kim Sorensen, Secretary Treasurer Pat Mosby, Vice Chairman Richard Tugman, and Chairman John Stone. I guess that is a motion from nominating committee.
Brent, you're a lot further along the line.
So is there any discussion on that before we take a vote to approve that slate? All right, all in favor of the slate as presented, please signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, like sign. All right, we're all stuck for another year.
Thank you, Jesus.
Thanks, everyone who is serving. Let's see, staff report.
Okay. So I am very pleased to report that Clayton Copper has been promoted to the Business Development Manager.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. No, it's fantastic. I'm really, Clayton is probably the activity that's gone on in this office when it comes to business attraction and just site development and all of those things has ramped up considerably, and he has been I don't know what I would have done without him in terms of all that. And it's really hard when you want to move, when you want to go out and find somebody for a position if they don't already have experience, but it's really hard to bring them from one place, you know, to another, because all municipalities have their own personalities. And we were already going down a road of really trying to focus on development within the city and how we could better partner with developers in the city to try to figure out what they were doing, perhaps try to attract other developers to the city. And then the whole business attraction side of it, we haven't had, you know, prospects. As I've told you all, that Greg Platinum was the best prospect, the most real prospect that I've gotten from BDP in the whole time that I've been here. And it really put us, it was an international prospect, it's a German prospect. So they put us through our paces, even from VEDP standards, what they asked for, clarification, all of the things that they needed were much more intense than what normal prospects of VEDP sees come through, and Clayton handled all of that. So I'm very, very excited that he felt comfortable applying for the position. So thanks to Sackett, and thanks to Tom Martin, and thanks to Stephen Pedigo and everybody that interviewed. And we had a grant for this year, and we don't have to interview Clayton, so well deserved. Don't have the due diligence done. So Emmeline, is Emmeline here? Okay. She's coming in a few minutes. But anyway, Emmeline Gwynn, who is the communications manager, I have promoted her to now supervise Abby and Marisa, which are all over there in her area anyway. And she was pretty much, providing guidance to them because she'd been here the longest. And I've tried to tell everybody that works in here that all the positions that are here for many a year, it was just me and Melissa. And then it was just me, Anna, and Melissa. And so nobody's been in their position long enough. It's constantly evolving. So we're looking at everything and making sure that, because I know that the road ahead will be one of very tight budgets. So very excited that Emmeline has stepped up to do that. Just wanted you all to know, and Emmeline's gonna come in here in a few minutes when we go through the presentation. So we're continuing the work on the Airport Commerce Park and Ivy Creek Innovation Park. So both of those have grants that are being handled through the EDA as a conduit for those grants. And we had conversations this week with both Go Virginia and with the Virginia Business Ready Sites group, and we're rolling. So the due diligence on those two sites will probably be finished way before the end of the grant cycle, and let us know next steps. But obviously the Ivy Creek site, that's been active, right? Because we had some just conceptual drawings, or we could show people something that is kind of out there in the mix when it comes to prospects looking at, places to locate. So it's kind of a moving target. Clayton's trying to keep that part of it moving forward with the due diligence, as well as provide information when we get a prospect that asks us. And I'm telling you, this week I've probably had 4 site selectors, call us. And once again, you have what you have. So just wanted to let all of you know that we were let know late last week that Gray Platinum, we made the finals for Gray Platinum. We were one of 2 in the whole country, but they chose Knoxville to move forward with. We got great review. I consider this, and I'm not an optimist, just so you know, that I consider this, just like I said about Clayton, this was an unbelievable prospect for us to even have. I think we did a fantastic job according to the site selectors. They were very positive in their response to us to the information that we provided them. So what I really,
Given our topography,
we haven't had time to debrief, but I wouldn't count on VDP to debrief with. We actually formed enough of a relationship with the site selectors, I believe, that I can talk to them. But they really did come back and say, you provided everything we needed. So I believe that from Knoxville's perspective, I think the building, the River's Edge building, was unbelievable to them, right? Perfect for them. But our sites were so raw, right? I always knew that if I'm asking you to imagine and you can't even, you can't see it. You also see the topography. If you go to the end of Lynchburg Lane, you look over and it's, so you know what you're working with there. And I think in Knoxville, they probably didn't have as good a building as the River's Edge building, but their sites were shovel ready. So they've got a really tight time frame to be able to do that. But you'll be pleased to know that we have 2 prospects that were waiting in the wings that we were working simultaneously for the building.
that's what I was going to ask.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's such a great building, but once again, when you don't own the building, the owner of the building is going to lease it to whomever they feel the most comfortable with, which doesn't always mean as many jobs or the type of business that you might, that if we got to choose, we might be able to hold out for, right? But both of them are listed on the stock exchange that are looking at the building.
Margaret, can I ask, do they now go into an exclusive negotiation period in Knoxville?
Yes.
And is it still, and
Yes,
do
they
we have
told
any?
us that. They
Yeah.
said if anything fell through, if it didn't move forward, they would come back to us. But they wanted us to know.
So it doesn't go back to a new process, there's,
So
I
there,
mean, really,
is there anything in form of tax incentives or anything that Knoxville has ahead of us?
I guarantee you Knoxville would make us look like we were sitting out on the curb.
Is it Knoxville or is it the state of Tennessee
Yeah.
versus Virginia more so?
Yeah.
Well, it's probably both.
Probably
I
both.
mean, we are, Virginia is not is very conservative state and as far as we go, in terms of, and see, in a lot of cases, it's all the other things, right? I'm sure that the land was owned probably by the locality or the EDA down there. So you always have the land part of it. You also probably have, programs in place where you give, infrastructure and hookup fees and all of that. And those things happen from having prospects. So when you know what you have to do to be competitive, I mean, that was one of the things that Clayton and I talked about many times, was the fact that if it did go, and they did come forward, we didn't even talk to them about incentives. We never even got to that place.
Okay.
But when we did, wow, what was that gonna look like downstairs? It's just it's a sum of your experiences,
I
right?
think it's great that we commend you for developing a relationship with the site selector that allows you to go back to them on a sort of anecdotal basis. But is it worth contemplating something more scientific than that in order to try and really understand what are the rationales for the reasons that we can then use to leverage going forward? I just don't know if there's more to it than just a conversation.
Well, and like I said, I mean, I certainly would, would look at anything like that if there was something more scientific, but I do think that it comes down to, shovel-ready sites, like having a site that they know that they can get in and get up and running in 18 months, 2 years, usually you can push it down the road a little bit, but if you've got they could see that the site costs in Abbey Creek, which we all know, I mean, grading alone is a lot of money. It's very different from the, what they may have had in Knoxville,
I
so.
assume the governor's office knows about this.
Oh, yeah, everybody knows.
Because that was his whole platform, is that we're not a pro-business state, and we're losing to Tennessee and
Yeah.
North Carolina. And
A
so
lot.
the
Yes.
hindsight on this from them should be,
And it
Great.
is, they're just looking at much bigger sites than what we have. They're called mega sites, so
Okay.
they are working with
who
that-
is they?
the state. The state is looking at, huge, where they can really, the wind can be much, much, much bigger. But that's what the Virginia Business Ready sites, the grant that we got to do due diligence. That is what that was for. And, they really, I mean, to be frank, they really kind of throw the other municipalities that don't have really big sites a bone by saying, we want to help you get your sites ready, but, what Virginia needs is some really, incredible sites that we can all work. I mean, I can't remember right off the top of my head, but I think there was one in Northern Virginia that got,
But
$5 million.
The elephant hunting is great for that. We're never going to be in the elephant
Not gonna be in
hunting.
that game.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's just, what's our pitch? What
do we have to do?
Yeah.
Well, I think the fact that from the community side of it and all of that, that was really, that was all really, really positive. And what we need to do, I mean, it is all about location and what makes sense to the company. But it really, if you don't have a shovel-ready site, if you don't have a site that's close, or you don't have, as much of it, and it's a chicken
More
and egg.
control over.
Yeah. And you gotta have control over it, like, anything that we do, we can say, if you come in as a prospect and you just want a warehouse and you go hire 10 people, we can say you need to go look somewhere in the private sector. That's not what the EDA is here for, and it's not what we're, what we're looking for. And what always happens is, and I'm certainly not second guessing anything, but, you know, and from council's perspective, they look at it as we need this money for what's going on here right now. And so when you get a prospect, we will consider this, but you're never gonna get a prospect if you don't take some of these steps to get there. And we really have not, until we did a master plan. And we had a engineer that even found the sites A and B. Because the EDA had a master plan done in 2009 for Wigington Road. But we came at it from the Wigington Road side because we thought there would be less infrastructure to just come right off of Wigington and build a road down. And they didn't identify any more than 30,000 square foot sites. Right? And so when we redid it in 2000, 21 or 22, that is when this other site was found there. But the grading and everything to do with it, it would have to be a prospect like this one in order for it to make sense to everybody concerned. So I'm over the moon that we had a shot at something where I get this kind of feedback from them. And that they literally, they don't have to say any of this, right? But they said, we see, a very bright future for working with, Virginia, but also we were much more impressive than the state. I'm just telling you.
Okay. So moving forward, does this mean we should find ways or funds to invest in more ready sites? Is that what I'm hearing?
You don't have that many sites. You only have.
But the
two.
ones we have.
Yeah, we're moving,
do the
we are
grading.
doing that right now. We're doing due diligence to find out exactly how much it will cost to move forward. We've also put these sites in CIP, in the capital improvement program for the city. Now, they've taken them out every year, but they're in there. They're not there for you all to pay for, because you can't. It's too expensive. They are in there for the city to help us to pay. We'll go out and look for grants, VDOT, I'm sure. What I cared about for these sites before we ever had this prospect was to get access. Get sewer, utilities, and a road to it. If you can do that and then just show a footprint, you're a lot further along the line. And we knew from the very beginning that, if we'd had them clear, sites was going to be very, very expensive. So that would be the next thing, is that the city has got the full $9 million in CIP out 25, 26, 27. It's all in the capital improvement plan, right?
And that has been cut from the budget?
Well, what we do is we put a certain amount for each year, like what are you gonna spend? For this year, and we had a grant for this year and we don't have the due diligence done. So once the due diligence is done and we have a list of what it's gonna cost to prep the site, then we would program. We took our initial figures that we got from the master plan, Kim.
Gotcha.
And that's what we programmed in there. And we programmed them based on engineering. So this would be done in 25, and this would, you can't, you gotta do it in sequence to get there. So that's how we programmed it out. So once we get this due diligence done, we'll go back in and reprogram. If it's more, if it's less, they will do all the findings and we will reprogram that, right?
So in the past, given our topography as being the hill city, has that been impacting our?
We haven't had any sites. We've
Okay.
only had 200 Jefferson Ridge that we have
Okay.
had out there marketing it for, as long as anybody's been on, as long as I've been here.
Okay.
We've
That's the one
marketed,
about
Just
the
curious.
yes,
Yeah.
and it's very small because of the topography. It's probably 5 acres, if that. And what's happening right now is Clayton, he's gonna tell you in a minute, is working with the Forestry Service to clear 200 Jefferson Ridge. So I think the minute you clear it, it takes on a whole different life. People really know
Visualize it
it's there and
properly.
available, but we're working with the Forestry Service. And we're also working with them on sites A and B. So we gotta get them cleared. So people, I mean, if we'd had them cleared, that might have been, but there was no way with the short time frame that I had that you could have, and if I had cleared them, it would have been a terrible job.
Is that the area past the railroad track?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, on the other side. So we're working to get, all of this is in motion. But
Mhm.
prior to the master plan being
Mhm.
done, the EDA did not have, property, identified that was set, site ready, and might I add, the VDP has not sent, we all rely on VDP and our own efforts with site selectors,
Mhm.
Megan's efforts to get prospects. Megan, I think we've got numbers that say over the past 5 years, she's probably had, I don't know, 70 prospects, something like that.
Wow.
But, and they weren't site ready. It's not just us.
Mhm.
It's the greenfield sites, around us, and it has to work, right? The Teva building's been sitting there forever.
Mhm.
It has to be the right fit.
You talk about the sites, what about the workforce? I mean, is that as much of a challenge or?
I don't think it's as much of a challenge, but I do think it's changing, Sean. So it can become a challenge, right? Because as people, this region has relied on the 4 rural counties, and the 4 rural counties have depended on, the city, and that's where they came in to work in the manufacturers, as well as your place, Centra, the colleges. I mean, people came in to do that. So and Stephen will go through all this when we get on the presentation to talk about, when birth rates go down and when all these things happen, you're gonna have less of a workforce. But workforce has not been something that they have tagged us on as being a deficit, right? The workforce part of it, we've been in pretty good shape on. The quality of place, can't take your foot off the gas, right? But quality of place, recognizing us, the branding, everything that we've done, like in the past, 4 or 5 years here, and if we didn't have you all, we wouldn't have been able to do any of it. Cause if I'd have gone downstairs and asked, they had other things that they were, focused on. And sometimes until you can bring something forward, which is why something like Gray Platinum, the mayor got to see it, all of council was briefed on it.
Mhm.
I mean, they're understanding that we're getting noticed and these things are here, and we go back to them and tell them when it didn't work out, what the reasons were. So you're really bringing everybody, you all and everybody else along
Mhm.
when you do these things.
But I will say, to pick up on Sean's point regarding workforce, and it's not clear to me from the data that's at the back of here, that the 18 to 65 segment is not growing in this geography.
Yes,
It's actually the reverse.
yes,
So I would expect that it's going to become an issue.
yes. I agree with you, Richard. I agree with you.
Speaking of workforce, and maybe I'm jumping the gun here, what is the situation and the competitiveness between Charlotte and us with those 500 something engineers?
Oh, there's lots of competition there, lots of competition there. We're gonna have to rework lots of partnerships with schools and the community college and all that.
No, what I was referring to is, didn't we have an approach from one of our large companies that they want to expand and
Yeah.
either here or Charlotte? Is
Right.
it nothing?
No, I'm just saying that I don't really think you can compare us to Charlotte as a place to attract engineers. I mean, the truth is that we will need to, that is an unbelievable opportunity to, to really reconfigure how you are doing things, right? We don't have, Liberty has an engineering degree. not necessarily at this point well recognized. Sweetbriar has an engineering degree, so I think Randolph has partnered with another college to have an engineering degree. Our degrees at these colleges don't match up with the jobs that are here,
Okay.
which is probably true in a lot of places, right? But it's an opportunity to be able to look at your city schools, and try, I mean, I know, and Alicia can help me out of here, EC Glass and places like that, they have an engineer, they have people that did teach nuclear and engineer. I mean, we made changes when our companies came here, in the first place. But you understand what's going on around us, and so the schools will need to be supported.
Mm.
And we will need to really think about, but part of that is the responsibility of the companies themselves. Because I'm always shocked when I get on the phone with the company and they tell me what some of their issues are. I have what I think to be a pretty good relationship with them. And they never even thought to call us. They never, we don't know about it. I'm not saying we could solve it, but if we don't know what the issues are, then we can't be laying the groundwork to try to talk about and have funding and look for ways to solve those issues.
The engineering issue almost seems like you need to get like a Virginia Tech in on that conversation to supply.
Yeah.
If you ever were to bring new engineers, but also keep
What you have.
feeding the companies that are
Yeah,
here.
and the state understands that, and they also understand, they understand the clusters that are in Virginia and how to, that they need to focus on feeders to those, right? But the truth of the matter is that you can have all the institutes of higher learning up there, but if you don't have feeders coming from the schools, from the public schools and from schools like that, then especially for us around here, if we wanted to capture any of our people to go through those tracks, you have to employ all of it. You have to employ grow your own, you have to employ coming from somewhere else. So we're listening to all of those with the companies that Kim's referring to. It's going to be a very exciting time. To me, it could be a game changer for the city if we pay attention. Meaning from a placemaking standpoint, I mean, you don't attract a group of engineers anywhere if you don't have quality of life and connectors and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, it's a real opportunity to step up on a lot of levels. So when you get opportunities like this, then you're scrambling around with the staff that you have and the resources that you have to meet the challenge. It's not like we've been given resources or any focus necessarily in the past to really go after from a business attraction standpoint. Because if somebody came here, our existing businesses take up most of any new sites or anything that's happening there. And you want to support them because they've been here, forever. So we've had an expansion or something happen almost every single year, of some significance since I've been here. But the opportunity to attract, somebody from the outside is really where focusing on a site development happens. Or if you want to see a really big expansion or a commitment by a home office to, from the headquarters situation, you would do that. Like, it is, Bosch and Lomb came back to me looking for additional space before they even finished the addition they have over there right now. But there's so many variables in all this, right? You want to look at what's the tax revenue generated there? What are all of and y'all wouldn't believe what the tax revenue generated is by some of our largest companies. It's just because of the category they fall in. Lots and lots of variables to look at when you do that. But just know that the ship that you commandeer is headed in the right direction. And that, I'm so grateful for when Reed was at the helm, that he totally supported master plans for these sites, and that's where we are right now. And really, when you think about how we move, that's record time. Okay, I'm sorry.
That's not digress.
Well, I know you must be tremendously disappointed, and we all are, but I would say that from my perspective, I think you did a great job.
Yeah, well, I really appreciate that, but I'm telling you that, the fact, every step of the way, the fact that we were 2 people in the whole country for a company like this, we were already, above our weight. I mean, the fact that that they had the conversations with us that they did when we took them to the end of a cul-de-sac where you look down a ravine. I mean, y'all think about that. I mean, you're thinking about opening your manufacturing facility, your first one in the US, right? And you're seeing, exactly what that topography, could be there. So every day that we stayed in was absolutely, amazing, to me.
I can't remember who it was or where it was specifically, but initially there was another location in the state of Virginia that was
Yes,
gonna run.
yes.
And I looked it up and looked at that park, and it was huge and flat and amazing. And ours was a ravine and a creek and a bunch of trees, right? And we outlasted that one.
Yeah.
That park was.
And-
Well,
Yes,
kudos
where
to
Lego
you, and
went.
kudos.
Things happen.
You guys did an excellent job.
Well, and for being, like, the team is new. The
Yeah.
team has not been through, it's not like we turn RFPs and stuff around or do any of that. And I'm telling you, Kim, you know this, I mean, the Germans put us through our paces on the questions they asked. I'm not kidding you. I mean, the VDP people and Megan came back to me and went, oh my gosh, we have never been asked this. This is way over the line. Clayton just head down, whatever they asked, went and got it.
Sorry.
Didn't even, he had
No,
no
but
frame of
it's-
reference to go, what a pain in the.
No, you can say
You
it.
never-
We're very
No, but I mean,
diligent.
But we didn't know that. We just thought they're asking, we're gonna read, I mean, we did all of that, right?
But now
And
you're
to-
prepared.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I don't know, we pulled it off. But we will be prepared because, like I said, the lessons learned now, what they gave us by us being, and I think VDP was really shocked, but the other thing it allowed me, I've never been to a site selector on site like that. To get up in front of them and give a presentation with the company in the room and VDP in the room. I saw where the gaps were with VDP. And I was able to see that it is really about sales, which is my background. And it's about thinking on your feet. And seeing what the other company, there were 5 of us from Virginia that were in the running at the beginning. And every one of them had what John just described. They are a machine. Their EDAs over years and their municipalities understand what it takes to get this done. They've invested. I mean, they're out there buying bill. I mean, I was listening to them and going, I am going to act like that we maybe haven't gotten, to this, but this can be amazing. I'm down there in heels going down the dirt road where the front end loader was going down there and go, this can all be yours, right over here. If you can just look above that tree line right there.
Wow.
They even looked at me and just went, what just in the, and I went, yes, I know it's challenging. I climbed over it last week to pick up trash to make sure it looked nice for you all to be here. Anyway. Yes, I was very, very, disappointed, but there was also a part of me that was just terrified that they were gonna come back and say, we want you to do it, and this is how fast it's gotta be done,
Okay.
and this is how much money we need for you to do it. So now I get ready, I'm
You're ready.
in the position to be prepared.
Yeah.
Okay.
For all of that. So, like I said, 2 other prospects, not for the sites A and B necessarily, even though one of the prospects has already asked if they could buy some acreage from the EDA. But real decent prospects, the people that are not in the city right now would come in that building. So we are working, they haven't come for anything, they'll probably, they're big. So they'll probably come on their own to me for the incentive part of it. They won't go through, you know, the EDP or any of that. Or if they do, they will come here.
Mhm.
So, you know, tourism continues to kill it. I can't even tell you all, Andrew's not in here because he's out on the road, but the investment that we made and all of the things to do with tourism it's unbelievable. I mean, he's $16 million in economic impact and we're July.
Wow.
I just want to say Andrew is on it.
Yes.
My experience when I reached out, we're going to have our little mods and rockers, which only about 100 people this summer again. I mean, he made arrangements. The same day I received information from various hotels with various discounts for people because people are coming from as far as New Jersey for this,
Mhm.
mostly DC, but as far as New Jersey from this. And I mean, the same day I had proposals and offerings from
Yeah,
hotels.
he's
discounted
incredibly
rates. So
organized
he
and-
is,
Wow.
I was really impressed with him.
And there's that balancing act again, right? Like I
Mhm.
said, the ability to cut the tax rate to 89 cents was bolstered off of the fact that the trust taxes are all up. Trust taxes are all the tourism taxes, lodging, sales, meals, all of that. And I believe that robust, we hang in there pretty well
Mhm.
anyway, but everything that's been done here with this brand and everything that's been done by Emmeline's crew and all of that, I believe that that's had a direct impact on those numbers, blowing the doors off. Plus the fact that Andrew is out there all the time promoting sporting events, meetings, he does it all, right? And he does an incredible job. And for some reason, people don't understand, the work that's been done in this office for that side of the house, and it makes an incredible difference in the tax revenue at the end of the day. And hopefully those types of things can help pay for the stuff you all have taught. I mean, site development and different things like that, because you're able to attract people to come here. So we are also, as if we didn't have enough to do, we are also working on the Tech Hub application. And that is a federal EDA grant. It has 2 components. It has a strategic planning grant that you can apply for. And it has a Tech Hub designation you can apply for. And it is extremely detailed and complicated in terms of are very specific in the kinds of things that they are looking for. And as I've told you all before, our consultant that we have for Edison Welding Group, which is, we work with them on helping manufacturers. They've had a long-term relationship with BWXT and Framatome. And that's one of the reasons why they're willing to come down here and work with our other manufacturers, smaller manufacturers. But they contacted me in January and said, this is gonna come out, and I think it would be a great fit for Lynchburg. And I went to Frampton BWXT and said, are you interested and should I pursue this? And they both said yes. And so I got Megan involved because we certainly wouldn't handle it all out of this office. And as you can imagine, it's very political and it's very territorial. So we have spent the biggest part of June and the beginning of July trying to bring people on board and take us seriously for doing this application. So we have gone from being I've gone from being in a room where Lynchburg was somewhat dismissed by the political powers that be, to calling me and saying, how can we help you? So we are now at the point where we have a draft narrative of the application, which has been floated. I mean, we really solidified the group that is gonna come together. So it is, it's gonna be called the Lynchburg Niche, which is, what is it? Nuclear Innovation.
Industrialization technology and commercialization hub.
They want a catchy name.
Niche.
Sounds better.
They want a catchy name. So
Say that
we
again.
have that, and then it is going to be
Let me look it up.
Go Virginia. How the state divvies things up. Go Virginia Region 1 and Region 2. So
And
we're gonna bring Southwest Virginia, where the governor said the first SMR is gonna go. We're gonna bring that group in, you know,
SMR.
yes, small modular reactor.
Sorry about that. Huh?
And we're gonna, we're bringing them in, and we may bring half of another region in, but time is drawing nigh, right? Like me cajoling you to get in, you either get in or get out, right? We gotta go. So the narrative for this grant is 5 pages. And there are only gonna be 20 of these things across the country. Ours is focused on, as it should be, nuclear technology.
Which is specifically called out in the
It is,
documentation,
it
so we have that
absolutely
benefit.
is, yes. It's
big
in the,
advantage.
it's in the NOFO, which engineering degree opportunity from,
The niche is in the notes.
yeah, the niche is in the NOFO. And, so now it's just a question of, but I'm telling you all, like, back to Kim's point, between the project that we have out there right now and this tech hub, the access that it has allowed us and the discussions that we've been able to have with major employers here that we would have never had on just a, you know, regular how you doing basis, it will blow your mind.
So when you refer to the project that we have out, right, what, I mean,
Which one is that?
Yeah.
That is Project Mill Ridge.
and regarding the application procedure, Margette, is that being done all internally within this office?
No, it's being done in conjunction with Megan's office, the Lynchburg Regional Business Alliance, the Central Virginia Planning District Commission. All of these things are spelled out in this NOFO, Richard, of who you have to have in a consortium. So it is also the Virginia Innovation
And there's Virginia Tech
Nuclear Hub,
involved.
yes.
So I read that, but specifically, who is crafting the application? Is that an outside consultant?
Yes,
Who is that?
that is Chris Conrady with Mosaic Consulting.
So we've engaged him, this
Yes.
consortium has engaged him to write this application, which is due by August 15th. Will we get to see a draft of that?
Oh, sure. Right now, where I am is, I have not, the cat herding has just recently completed. And so, Clayton and I started, and Clayton, you can jump in here anywhere, he's been involved in all this as well, but, this week, we have a team phone call once a week, and this week we went to each one of the partners for them to identify what their role and assets that they bring to the table. See, before, we've just been trying to ask them if they wanted to be part of it and all that. So now the rubber's meeting the road. We're getting all this information, and Chris Conrady with Mosaic has already got a draft. I'll share the draft with all of y'all, drop it in the Dropbox where it is right now. But it will all be informed by what these folks are writing in there. He's got to make this so tight, 5 pages. You've got to tell this whole story, right? And you have got, and so Framatome wants to see, you know, a draft of the document so they can start floating it up the flagpole,
Okay.
right? They've got to go further. I've been right to your boss straight away.
Mhm, I'm sure.
And he has edited it for me,
Good.
so I don't have to go anywhere else.
Great.
That's right. Thank goodness for him.
Mhm.
And so, you know, we don't have but so much time to do this. And where we are with it is we have application, the strategy, the planning grant. What we're doing is going down both paths. We're gonna see if we have everything we need for a planning grant.
Mhm.
And once, Chris, we feel comfortable with that, then we're gonna see if we could pull off the designation within the next couple of weeks, right? Meaning, we don't wanna let one go for the other.
Mhm.
We don't want, if we can't do everything that we feel like is needed for the designation, we're gonna go for the planning grant. If we feel like we can do the designation, we're gonna go for the designation.
Is there a hard deadline?
Yeah, it's
for
15.
The 15th.
Same,
I'm sorry.
same.
Miss-
They're gonna be graded individually by separate groups of people here. It's a huge, huge deal, but I need for you all to know that when we go down one of these roads, you know, Megan and myself, for me, I want our companies like Framatome, like BWXT, and all the other manufacturers around here, Flowserve, Airfin, that support the nuclear industry, to know that we know that they're here in a cluster and that we want to support them. So even going through this is letting all of them know. And if we don't make this grant, we're now all congealed as a group. We can go after all kinds of things. So that was Chris's pitch to me in the very beginning, was Margette, I've seen this work in other states. I believe that I've talked to Framatome and BWXT repeatedly,
Mhm.
and these are the kind of things that they want to see. I mean, these are the things that they, you know, would do. And like I said to Rex, I said, you know, you've got so much innovation probably laying on the table there. If there was anything we could do to reduce your cost or to bring, you know, to have what you're doing elevated on any way, that is what that's why we would go down, you know, go down this road.
So Marge, I have a couple of questions. The first is, what's our role and purpose as the EDA here? What do you need from this group? Is there any specific role for us to play in this process?
Well, I think, you know, they have got, very defined roles that they want to see from the NOFO part of
So
it.
who's going to be? I can't remember the terminology. You approve there's a sponsor. That's not the right term.
It's a consortium member, so the Central Virginia Planning District has done EDA grants before, so they are going to physically apply for the grant.
Yeah, but there's something in the regulation or the proposal that calls for someone an organization to stand out, and it wasn't clear to me who that would be.
It's probably gonna be the Central Virginia Planning District and then Lynchburg Regional Business
And that has to be
Alliance.
identified in the proposal,
Yes.
and that decision hasn't been made yet.
No, it will be that. It will be the
Within the next
Central
2
Virginia, Planning District and then LRBA. The funds would flow through, just like they do the EDA. When we asked you for a grant, the funds would flow through the Central Virginia Planning District to LRBA.
Okay.
There has to be a regional officer hired
Yeah.
to manage it, and that position would live within the LRBA.
With that, okay, all right
So
then.
we wouldn't take that on. It would
Okay.
go up there.
But there's nothing specifically that we're called upon in terms of supports at this particular point in time?
Yeah, we haven't set the whole budget yet. We've
Okay.
got, there'll have to be a match. But there's also private sector folks that are gonna do letters of commitment to what we're doing, and so that the private sector, or we may be called upon as an entity to be a partner in that. But right now, the budget has not been formally formulated. So the tech hub doesn't give you any money yet. If you're designated as a tech hub, you're not asking, there's a boatload of money there, but you're asking for the designation. If you go after the planning
Yeah.
grant, that's $500,000, and you would need to match $100,000 of that.
Okay, and that decision still hasn't been made yet?
No.
Okay, my second question is maybe slightly more, I don't know, I put anyone on a difficult spot here, but clearly the reason why we're interested in this is because there are two anchor organizations in our geography that have the words nuclear associated with them.
Yes.
Right? My sense is from what you've just said is that the leaders in both of those organizations are supportive. Is that
Yes.
true? Even though the emphasis in these regulations is around non-military and more civilian.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
There is a large emphasis on national security as well
Yeah.
within the NOFO.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's where the defense part of it, but it's all over the board. The EDA is trying to be all things to all people. It's under, I think it's under commerce, right? So it's diversity and inclusion. They want you gotta put
Oh,
that
yes,
part in there.
yeah.
You've gotta put, we gotta be a disadvantaged community, a distressed community. Yes. We have to put, it's trying to be a game changer in an area, right? But in the same vein, it requests that you become a global leader in 10 years.
Yeah.
Nobody at any nonprofit or any of these things that people think are well-meaning that get set up is going to be a global leader except for Framatome or BWXT or somebody, some entrepreneur that does something for them or whatever. So that is,
I just thought it was interesting that I get the national security, the emphasis, and there are two anchor organizations. Your organization is 90% Department of Defense. And I was just a bit worried about the skew there. And I think others were, there was a lunch, as you know,
Yeah.
around whether or not, because of that, maybe a BWC would be less interested in this. And secondly, Arriva, or Framatome as it is now, concerns running up the flagpole, how much of the benefit which may come from this would be limited because of export control issues that they may not be able to, so they may be less supportive around it, which, to us is irrelevant. What we want is to drive this particular project for our geography. We should be less bothered about that.
Yeah.
And it should distract us from supporting it.
Right. But at the same time, they have been very involved as to where they saw themselves in here. And for a lot of them, there are other product lines that they have there that it certainly doesn't cut into the core business, but it's things that could help them do what they're doing, innovation that could make things much quicker and all of that. So nothing. The paper has, the draft of the narrative has been vetted by both companies and supported, right? And then the two organizations that the state of Virginia has stood up, which is this Virginia Nuclear Innovation Hub, which has UVA, Virginia Tech,
Old Dominion, or VCU.
VCU, and Liberty.
UVA.
So that's
And
one
Liberty
side.
is there?
Yes. And then there's the Virginia,
Nuclear Energy Consortium.
that thing.
We're going to need a dictionary for all of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do.
That's the acronym for that.
And they're on board, right? So what the state of Virginia, the governor's office, we were on the phone with the governor's office a week or two ago. We had their nuclear, their energy director and the special assistant to the governor and all that. And they're saying, how can we help you? Right?
So when do you think we get a draft of the?
I can give you a draft of what's available right now,
No,
but I'm just letting
when it's
you
right.
know that it is, if you don't have all the players on board and they haven't been fully committed, then, that's going to, I don't think it'll impact, I think it'll remain in somewhat the same position. And I will tell you that the tweaks that the industry had were not major, which
think
is
it's very
very
exciting.
encouraging.
I
Very
think the project's very exciting. Sorry it takes so much time.
And I would just say that an office of our size and with all that, whatever that's going on there, to pull that off along with all the other stuff that we have to do all the time, it's
Wow.
amazing. And so I'm just going to bask in that glow for about a half a second.
Your time's up.
Thank you.
Very good
Okay.
job.
Clayton, did you want to say anything about the forestry piece of it?
Margette alluded to it earlier. We are having sites A, B, and 200 Jefferson Ridge logged rather than cleared. So we had the urban forester go and identify species of trees that can be logged for profit.
What's the difference?
Land clearing, they would just cut it down and get rid of it, mulch it all, and logging, they're selling the wood, the
Okay.
hardwood. So
Okay, gotcha.
the idea behind it is, one, it doesn't require any permitting outside of the Department of Forestry. So it can happen in conjunction with the due diligence projects that we have going on. And the second part is that it will cost next to nothing because people logging it will get to sell the wood and it should come back relatively close to $0.
Also doesn't completely destroy the site. Where
Correct.
You've got to maintain it in a different way.
With,
Yeah.
But it makes it visible. So that
erosion
people can
and-
actually see what's-
and water issues, storm water issues. So yeah, that will make them both more marketable, essentially.
So when they say logging, do they leave it like it's been destroyed by a nuclear bomb, or is it just do they actually?
They'll drop seed in
Okay.
areas that have been cleared more heavily, but they won't be bushwhacking like everything.
Okay.
Yeah. So there will still be trees visible.
Which, yeah, I think makes for a much more attractive site, but I think that's gonna be a game changer when people see for the first time that is actually a site
Mhm.
in any of these places. So it's fantastic.
Help
So
me understand again, where, down by the train tracks?
it's all the way at the end. You all have one site right across the train tracks on Jefferson Ridge
On the
Parkway.
left,
Mhm.
as you go in.
Past sheets, you cross train tracks immediately and it's immediately on your.
Thank
left.
you.
On the-
All right,
Right next door to Novatech.
okay,
Uh-huh.
thank you.
And then you go all the way to the end. We'll take you sometime, Sean. It's so exciting. You go all the way to the end of Lynchburg Lane, which is where Boxley is.
Mhm.
And all of the land going up, if you look to the left, and you look to the right, all of that is EDA property.
Mhm.
And
Thank you.
sites A and B would come off of Lynchburg Lane, right there by Boxley, Sean. And that road would come alongside Boxley to get to those sites over to the left-hand side.
Boxley's a big site, so it's hard to
It's
even
very
imagine
big
how much
site.
is behind Boxley.
Mhm.
Yeah,
But
it's
it's a
a
lot.
really
It's a
big
lot.
site, right? And once again, Boxley is awesome, but if we'd have been planning, we might not have put that there, I mean, it's just one of those things where hindsight's 20, I mean, if you're not looking at all these things moving forward. So just to show you how diverse we are, yesterday dropped after a year and a half, the August edition of Southern Living's got a 6-page article on Lynchburg, Virginia.
Yeah, I saw that.
Oh.
So I just want to say for Anna's and I's birthday yesterday, we got the Southern Living drop. So it is beautiful.
Yeah, it looks beautiful.
Feature something in particular?
It's a whole, like, what to see and do in Lynchburg, Virginia. It's a whole experience.
Wow.
Be a weekend.
Did we get advance notice of the fact that they were doing this special spring on Lynchburg?
Yeah, they came a year ago. And we hosted the travel writer and worked with them to take them all around, show them everything. All that's coordinated in Himmelin's side and, Hannah. All of that was a year ago.
So when I open that up, is it paid advertisement of 6 pages or is it just a true story of?
No, it's an
We
article.
can't
Great.
afford that.
Yeah.
Okay,
We're at there hawking on the street.
Yeah.
I have to get me a copy so I can take a look.
But it's pretty impressive. It's beautiful. Anna sent me the cover of it. It drops in August.
Okay.
By the way, is there any news on a few sessions ago you mentioned, I can't remember if it was a documentary and a film, or two films on Liberty, on the Falwell.
Oh, it's on
Episode.
Hulu.
It's out there.
There's a film.
Been out there.
Mhm.
It's actually, it's a
Series.
no, the famous Grimstone, or no, what,
Yeah,
is that what it was?
Mr. and Mrs. Falwell.
Oh, is that, so, no, so it was a documentary that was shot in Lynchburg.
No,
I'm not
I don't
sure
think
what you're
I'm
talking
There,
about.
there was a reference about
I think you
some
were
some
talking
team coming
about
to
there
Lynchburg to
was someone
shoot something.
coming to shoot
Yes, in
a
Lynchburg.
movie.
Yeah, in Lynchburg.
Can't think of who, I cannot remember.
Oh, the
the
Shoeless
star's name.
Wonder?
No, that's not.
It wasn't
That's
that. It was
not-
related back to
Okay.
the Liberty piece. And there was going to be a film crew that basically, and it was a movie that I understood it,
Mhm.
a dramatization of basically.
This was gonna be filmed here, and you didn't want any information released. I mean, we didn't really have a lot of details. You gave us the actor's name, and
Yeah.
it slips my mind right now.
It's slipping mine, but I'll figure it
Yeah,
out.
But I remember you did mention it, and I was like, wow.
Be generous.
Thank you. We have.
But I don't,
I don't.
yeah, I'm not remember. Somebody would have had to tell me, because that is not like on my, radar.
One off of that, the amphitheater along the tracks. I thought multiple meetings ago that was supposed to be starting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So have
I
already
think they're
started?
well, it got
Received
held up
bids
because of the
last week.
budget.
Okay.
And they did, I think they had bids
Last week.
last week.
Okay.
Received bids
So that's moving forward, to be clear.
as of today.
Okay.
So could
Oh.
As of,
something done next year?
I think if they get the bid, if they work out the bids, if they're
Project
able
schedule
to,
is for 1 year.
but it
Which
would
is-
start as soon, I will tell you that if they can get close from the bid to what they had in there, they'll start immediately.
Someone will run out
The
there.
park has already been shut down from many events.
Mhm.
So the last event that was even anywhere near it was the July 4th fireworks, right?
Yeah, and it had been
Mhm.
blocked off from April until then.
Yeah.
Or May.
Yeah.
First week of May.
All right. Is that all for staff report?
Yeah.
That's a lot.
I thought that was gonna take like.
You're a little sidetracked.
But the
Uh,
truth was, I didn't get that other information until late.
Okay, and we do not have any items for closed session. Does anyone have anything they'd like to bring forth before we adjourn our meeting? If not, this meeting is adjourned.